Week 10 in the NFL kicks off at Hard Rock Stadium with the Miami Dolphins hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Week 9 for the Ravens was a familiar story this season. They once again fell down by double-digit points, but were led to a comeback victory by former MVP Lamar Jackson. And in a year with seemingly no dominant team in the AFC, the Ravens are in prime position to make a run at the Super Bowl.
Our team we fighters. We believe in each other. We got faith. Just got to keep it going. Hopefully we won't be in no more overtime games.
As for the Dolphins, it's been a disappointing season to say the least. After posting double-digit wins last year, they were at least expected to compete in the AFC East. After a Week 1 win in Foxborough, they dropped 7 straight, but were able to snap the losing streak at home against the Texans Week 9.
It's good to get a win. It's good to get a win.
If the Dolphins are going to turn their season around against the Ravens, they're going to have to figure out a way to slow down Lamar Jackson, who put on an absolute clinic the last time he played in this stadium. Can Jackson put on another vintage performance in his hometown of South Florida? Or will the Dolphins pull off the upset at home and make it 2 in a row? Week 10 is about to get underway.
Yeah, HQ, welcome in. I'm Eric Casillas. Happy Veterans Day to one and all, and thank you for your service if you've been part of our service country. Look, the NFL tonight down in Miami, right? And it's the Dolphins who are struggling against the Ravens, who have really outperformed what they probably deserve as a record. And if you're Miami, whether your slogan is fins up or stay pink or whatever you're going with this week, you need a win somehow, some way to sort of quell the tide of this is not going well. And if you're going to get a win, you're going to have to do it without Tua, apparently questionable, not expected to start the game. Sammy Watkins may be back for Baltimore. He's been out for a while. Latavius Murray not expected to go, so you may get more. Devontae Freeman and Le'Veon Bell. All right, everybody in the pool for this one. Out in Vegas, Kenny White, our Wizard of Odds. There's Todd Furman, our professional. And then on the field in Miami, CBS Sports senior NFL writer Jonathan Jones. JJ, I'm going to start with you because you're there on the field, on the scene. What is the mood like in Miami about a team that last year won double digits? This year it's 2-7. Is it, we thought they'd regress a little? Is it anger? Who's getting the biggest slice of blame pie here? Give me a flavor for down there.
It's apathy, which is the worst place for a sports franchise, right? Listen, this is a disappointing football team. If you want to argue they're the most disappointing football team in the NFL this season, you won't get any argument from me. This is a defense that's bad against the pass, that's decent against the run. This is an offense that really, no matter who's back there at quarterback, it cannot be successful because of the offensive line allowing more pressures by far than any other team in the NFL. An offensive line that they've actually worked at for some time, and this is the best that they could come up with. A wide receiver group that was supposed to be pretty decent, especially with Jalen Waddle, is not very decent. Will Fuller has been out for almost 5 weeks with what has to be the most significant finger injury in the history of football finger injuries. And again, you go back to the quarterback. Tua has not been great, but even when he has played well, go back to London when they lost to the Jags, they still can't win. And then they have Jacoby Brissett back there, and he can't do anything if that offensive line is a sieve like it has been all season. And so what you're seeing down here in South Florida, when you're talking about the fans and the reaction, you're getting apathy, which is the worst place in sports that you can be. But on the field, you're seeing a team that cannot compete for a championship in an AFC East where, hey, the Patriots maybe were going to take a back seat, and now the Bills are coming back down to earth. This would be the time for the Miami Dolphins after a double-digit win season with 3 wild cards, and it's not going to happen for them. So a number of warm seats down here in South Florida, the head coach Brian Flores and certainly the general manager Chris Greer.
Kenny, I'm going to go to you. I know you do power rankings for each team. Is this a matter of Miami has talent and they're underachieving in your power rankings? Or do you look at this roster and just say, hey, they are what we thought they were. They're 2-7 because they're a 2-7 roster. Where are they in the rankings?
Yeah, they're one of my teams that I bet against this year. I went under 9 wins at plus a dime. I had them 7.6 wins. JJ talked about that offensive line. I had their offensive line ranked 30th coming into the season. Their defensive line 27th. Linebackers 31st. The secondary number 13. Also, their backfield number 28 in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa, an average NFL quarterback, average stars in the running back game. So this was not a good team. This was a below average football team coming in.
And by the way, if Tua misses tonight, there have been 26 games since he's been drafted. This will be the 11th he misses because of injury. And he wasn't exactly always healthy at Alabama. You have to start to wonder now about his, the biggest ability in sports is availability, his availability. Todd, meanwhile, the Ravens, they are 1-5 against the number as a favorite, 0-4 against the number as a favorite of more than 4 points, 0-3 against the number against teams that have losing records. So they are 6-2, but they're not dominant in any way, shape, or form, especially when it comes to the number. Did you factor that in coming into tonight, or is that just sort of a, that's what's happened, I don't really care about that tonight kind of factor?
No, EK, I think it's for a good reason, because when you look at this Ravens team under its current construct, this is an offense-first football team. Lamar Jackson is the bell cow. We've seen how he's getting more comfortable as a pocket passer, getting all of his weapons involved. He's clearly developed a rapport with Hollywood Brown on the outside. We're seeing Rashad Bateman start to grasp the NFL game as he gets thrown into the deep end of the pool. They should get an upgrade with Sammy Watkins as a third receiver, and we know what Mark Andrews is the consummate veteran. I'm curious to see if the Ravens can get their ground game on track. And we saw glimpses of it last week. I know the Vikings' run defense has been much maligned, but this team has all the pieces on the offensive side of the ball that you like to see. The bigger issue for the Ravens is what they bring to the table defensively. We know Wink Martindale wants to blitz at a moment's notice, but when you're not getting home, he doesn't have the secondary right now other than Marlon Humphrey capable of covering downfield. We talked about the injuries coming into the year to the likes of Marcus Peters. They lose another key cog in Deshaun Elliott on the back end. And now you're talking about inexperience at the safety position. It's great to be able to win games with an offense like we saw last week against the Minnesota Vikings. It's a lot different if you can't get consistent stops on the defensive side, especially when you're asked to cover numbers, especially of a touchdown plus.
Kenny, how about Baltimore in your power rankings? They're a 6-2 team. Are they a 6-2 team when you rank them and rate them, especially with a defense that has been banged up and been a little susceptible and maybe living a little bit more on reputation than actual results this year?
Yeah, I have the Ravens number 7 in the NFL, and it's all about their offense. I have their offense number 7, and that's been the category that's actually helped them stay up as high as they are. 26th on defense. Very surprised because Baltimore is such a good franchise in bringing in players next man up and fitting what they need to fit. And funny, I had to look. When Todd said Wink Martindale, I thought, the game show host? Or is it Don Martindale? Or is it Dan Martindale? I don't know who he is anymore.
Chuck Woolery is a 2-2 guy. That's my guy if we're going to go with game show host. Because, you just said 2 and 2. That's going to be it for me. Although probably Bob Barker would be the guy, the face on the Mount Rushmore, if we're talking game show host. And, of course, we cannot forget the late, great, you-know-who from Jeopardy, Alex Trebek. We also have JJ holding a mic out there, so let's get the Rice-A-Roni play here from him. You got guys coming home to Miami, JJ, who play for Baltimore and have played well in that stadium. Brian Flores' first game that he coached in Miami was against Baltimore in that, building, and they got beat 59-10. Lamar Jackson, who's from South Florida, went crazy. Hollywood Brown from South Florida went crazy. Any talk about guys coming home and wanting to play well in their hometown or city, or is that sort of an overblown thing?
No, it's not an overblown thing. Of course these guys want to come down to Miami on national television in primetime and play well. Lamar Jackson did his best to downplay it, but it means something to him. He was there in his native Pompano Beach, Florida. Even last night, he tweeted that out. He cares about this community. He's going to have a lot of folks show up and show out. I was even talking with sources close to Lamar Jackson, who will certainly be here tonight. Though, field passes are difficult to come by in, these COVID times. But they will be here. I'm looking right now, and there are Ravens fans lining this tunnel here. But these guys, EK, to answer your question, do care about playing and performing well in South Florida. Lamar Jackson said, hey, it's hard growing up here and what it takes to come out of, the muck, if you will, and get to where they are. And I want to show that little boy or girl that they can reach the highest level of their profession, just like I'm doing. He didn't say it in those words, of course, but that was the implication when he was talking earlier this week. So that is important to Lamar Jackson. That's important to Hollywood Brown. And listen, this is a team that is not going to take the Miami Dolphins lightly. Yeah, they're 2-7, but they've faced some difficult teams, and they have played some close games. And we talked about that Vikings game last week. Well, it was just 4 days ago, and the Baltimore Ravens played 98 offensive snaps. Lamar Jackson rushed 21 times. He had 12 scrambles, which are the most scrambles by any quarterback in the NFL in at least the past 5 years. These guys are tired. Their legs are tired. It's going to be something to watch early on in this game.
That's why we tell you all the time, median, not mean. Because there's going to be a game where you get 98 offensive plays. You can't just average that in. You take the median, not the mean, when we look at these numbers, which is one of the reasons why we've been so successful. All right, let's pick the game. It's 8.5 currently. Baltimore is favored. The total, which was as high as 47.5, has come down to 46. 23 is your first half number. Team totals, Baltimore at 27.5, Miami at 17.5. Jonathan Jones, you're first from the field. What's the pick?
Give me Baltimore. I don't think that this game is going to be close. I don't think it's going to be a blowout like we saw in Week 1 2 years ago. But this Baltimore team, even though they played nearly 100 offensive snaps, are just a better football team. And they may have Sammy Watkins back. Rashad Bateman, as Todd talked about earlier, coming into his own. I don't think Nick Boyle is going to make his return because they just elevated a tight end from the practice squad, but we have seen that it doesn't matter who the running backs are. They have the biggest X factor in the NFL in Lamar Jackson. But, oh, by the way, it doesn't hurt that Le'Veon Bell is starting to come into his own after dipping his toes in the water and taking his time getting acclimated to this offense. I just think that Baltimore's offense, even though they're going to have some jello legs out here, they're going to jump out to such an early lead. Miami's not going to be able to compensate. And you look at that offensive line for the Miami Dolphins, doesn't matter if it's Tua with a busted up finger or if it's Jacoby Brissett, they can't score enough points to keep pace with the Baltimore Ravens.
And this is the NFL, and this is crazy what's happened the last couple of weeks. We saw Denver beat Dallas. We saw Jacksonville beat Buffalo. These things happen in the NFL. And on a standalone night, professional athletes know the entire league is watching them, and they are on the microscope. Miami will come to play tonight. I think they play a big game. They know they lost 58-10 the last time they played. They got their noses rubbed in it. I think it's a Miami team that'll come and they'll play their best game. They're not a good team. They're below average. Baltimore's the better team, and I think the number should be right around 7. I think Baltimore wins, but Miami hangs around and gives them a game and covers that point spread.
And you know what? I can see exactly where you're coming from, Kenny. I made the number much more in the same vicinity as you compared to where the market has moved with news that Tua has been downgraded to doubtful. I'm going to go in a slightly different direction, though, and I'm going to go under the total in the first half at 23. When you look at the Ravens so far this season, they've been notoriously slow starters. You're talking about a team averaging less than 3 points per game in the first quarter. Lamar Jackson takes a little bit to get his passing touch. He's really ratcheted up in the second half, oftentimes when Baltimore's playing from behind. Meanwhile, Miami, Brian Flores, I think early on can throw some things at this Ravens offense that may take them a little while to adjust for. Baltimore doesn't scare you by anything they do on the ground from the running back position. We know it's all about Lamar Jackson. I think the Dolphins realize with Jacoby Brissett under center, they're going to have to be methodical. They can't put him in positions to create that short field or make that big mistake early on. I think there's a little bit of a feeling out process here. I'm going to go under 23 in the first half. You know,
we don't talk about this beforehand, but Todd and I just hit match game, and I told them as soon as I walked in today, give me the under in the first half. Under. I think there's going to be a little bit of feeling out. I think Miami will come out playing with some pride. I think the second half, I worry about either garbage touchdowns or the game getting away from Miami. I could see it either way. Give me that first half under 23. Love it. I'll go under the total in quarters number 1 or 2. So let's take a look and see what everybody wants you to do. Todd and I both like that first half under 23. Jonathan Jones take the Ravens. Kenny Wild take the Dolphins. They'll go head-to-head there. That number up to 8.5 right now. And obviously the Ravens are the better club. You can see why JJ's going there. But Ravens have not covered well as a favorite. In fact, only covered once as a favorite and have not covered this year, given 4 or more, which is why Kenny takes the Dolphins. I could see that going either way. Well done, gentlemen.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.